this is Bethany again, and I'm doing another Thursday catch-up. Yay! So, before I start this video, I want to say that not every week I'm going to do a catch-up, because I might run out of things to say. You want to feel a sneeze coming on? Nope, lost it. Okay. And I have some other really cool content, just don't expect a catch-up every week. Also, in the last video, I mentioned stuff that I like to do. Didn't mention that I like reading. My mom pointed that out. I love to read. Okay, now that we've got all the basic comments settled, I'm going to try and make this video louder than the last one so you can actually hear it. Because, quite frankly, my last video was very quiet. I'll find a way to fix it. So if you can hear this, give me a thumbs up. And if you can't, give me a thumbs up because likes are great. I like likes. Okay. So, today I decided I would kind of share my story because I showed the story of my channel, but I didn't show the story of me. So I was saved when I was 4 years old. I've grown up in a Christian home and gone to Baptist church all my life. And when I was 4 years old, my mom led me to the Lord, and that was a huge, I didn't realize at that point how important that was going to be in my life. Then when I was 6 or 7, my dad lost his job, and that was really hard on my family. And we ended up moving to a town I'm going to call Tatertown, which is where I currently live. And, my cousins lived here, so we moved here. They had a house that we lived in for a while. And we just kind of bounced around to different houses in the area. But we always went to the same church, the one that my cousins went to. Even after they moved, we still went there. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But first, I want to explain something else. As I mentioned in the last video, I have an older sister, a younger brother, wait, did I mention this in the last video? Okay, in case I forgot to mention this in the last video, I have an older sister, an older brother, and a younger brother. My older sister is named Kayla, and you have probably seen her credited in a few of my stop motion videos. If you see her at the end of a video, it's one of my better ones because she's a perfectionist, and I appreciate that when I'm working on a video because I don't always work my hardest for it. And my little brother, his name is Charlie, and he's really special because when he was born, this is if anyone ever tells you that miracles don't happen, I have a little brother as living, breathing proof that miracles do happen. I was 8 years old when my little brother was born. It was a couple months after my 8th birthday. And my mom was supposed to have my little brother in a few days, week, I don't know. But what happened was she went in for an appointment or whatever, and they said, oh, he weighs way more than, a few pounds more than 10 pounds. He needs to be born soon. So they're just okay. So on August 11th, he was born, and the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck 3 times. So if he hadn't been born then, he probably wouldn't have survived. The miracle of that is that, when they weighed him, he was 11 pounds or something. But then, when they weighed him after he was born, he was only 7 pounds. So, to this day, we believe that God put a little 3-pound angel on the scale or whatever to save my little brother's life. Because if he hadn't weighed that much, he wouldn't have been born then. He wouldn't have, he wouldn't have made it. God plans everything. There's no such thing as a coincidence or an accident or a mistake. Just the fact that God created you means that you are special, you are important, and you are definitely not a mistake. So, anyways, when I was 10 or 11, I went to camp for the first time at this really great camp called Camp Lamoka. Place I had no idea how awesome that place was going to be for me. It was my first time going to camp. I went with my best friend Ellie, and we had a really great time. And then the next year, my older brother goes on a missions trip with some kids from our church. It was like a missions trip to some places in... It was like a missions trip, but it was to different places in America, but like within the region of where we live, kind of. Like not very far from there, but like there was still different cultures, different barriers and stuff like that. So yeah, I ended up going on the trip a few years later when I was old enough, and it was really awesome. And then he went on this trip and he met someone who encouraged him to apply to work at Camp Lamoka. So he volunteered there and he was on the program team during my second year as a camper, and it was cool to have him there. And then he kept saying, "Hey Bethany, are you going to work at Lamoka when you're old enough?" And I'm like, maybe. May as well. So the next year, I was old enough to work at Lamoka, but I didn't because my mom didn't want me to yet. So instead of going to Lamoka at all that summer, I went to Super Summer, which is the most amazing camp you could go to. Like, I feel kind of bad putting it at like a level above Lamoka, but if you want to see God move in an entirely new way, I would recommend it. So I went to Super Summer that year. I could have gone the year before, but I had gone to Lamoka. And, I had one friend with me and I made a new friend. But it wasn't until the next year at Lamoka that, we made a few more friends. And we had this bond, this circle of friends. We're a really close circle of friends. Like, we still Facebook message each other all the time, asking for advice and help and prayer requests and just sending random memes and stuff. It's really cool. After my first summer at Super Summer, I worked at Lamoka for almost all the summer. I was a volunteer. Like, I was there on my birthday, actually. And there were like 3 weeks of the summer that I was doing other things and wasn't there. I helped at my church's VBS, went to Super Summer, went to my grandma's with my cousin Caitlin, and I worked at Lamoka for most of the summer. And things happened that year that, changed my life. And it was just cool to see how God works in different ways, how He changes you, and how you make the greatest friends ever at camp. Like, best friends can be made overnight. And then, flash forward a few years, I still work at Camp Lamoka over the summer, and I still go to Super Summer. And then, this last year at Super Summer was, Super Summer is always a super spiritual, emotional experience. And this year, at the end of the week, it was kind of like an altar call, but at the same time it wasn't. The last night, the lesson was about Peter and how Jesus told him to follow him again. And Peter was all in for Christ and made his business the Lord's business. So they did an altar call, and they asked if anyone was feeling led to go into missions as a full-time career to come to the front of the room. And felt this, I don't know how to describe it. It was like a stirring but still, and moving, but it was like a burning that didn't hurt. It was like I was hungry, but I was full. And I knew that the minute they called us down there, I was running to the altar. and some people prayed over me because I just made a huge commitment. And you know, I'd kind of wanted to go into missions, but now I knew that God was calling me to give my life to Him. You know, I'd come to know Him, I'd given my life to Him, but I hadn't really given it all. I wasn't all in. But that night I gave up my life and made it God's life. So I graduated last year, and that was graduating a year early for me. So I'm waiting around at home for a year, hoping to find a job in my, off time. So far I haven't been successful, but that's because there's not much stuff to do in Tatertown. Anyways, I've been thinking about what college to go to, and I was thinking of Ethnos 360 Bible Institute in Michigan. And I live in New York, so going to a school in Michigan that I'd never been to before was almost a radical decision. But I was just like, okay, God, if you really want me to do this, I kind of might need a sign. And then a wonderful lady in our church, whose sons actually go to Ethnos 360, said that she knew I was considering missions and was wondering, if I was planning on going to Ethnos. And it was really interesting because, the night before I had said, God, can you give me a sign? And then the next morning at church, there it was. So I applied for Ethnos 360 Bible Institute. And because I had gone to a camp that was, not really a camp, it was a retreat at a place that was in partnership with Ethnos 360, they waived my application fee. So I got in for, I applied for free, and then they accepted my application. And so in the fall, I'll be going to Ethnos 360 Bible Institute in Michigan. I'm going to loop this story back around because there's something interesting throughout this. They say that people change people. Some people believe that to be the secret of life. And it is true. The people who are around you change who you are. But none of those people would be around you if it wasn't God's choice for them to be there. Nothing happens by accident. If my dad hadn't lost his job, we'd still be living where we were, and we would have never moved to the church that I still go to. I never would have heard of Lamoka, never would have heard of Super Summer, never would have had my church friends, never would have heard of Ethnos 360 Bible Institute. Those are some of the things that have changed me the most, and I would have never known about them if that hadn't happened. And God works in mysterious ways. Sometimes what seems like a terrible thing to happen is actually God's way of showing you that He still has a plan. So I just wanted to give you guys some encouragement. You may be going through a rough time right now, but God sees what you're going through. And He keeps your tears in a bottle. That sounds like, when I first read that, I actually read it on Facebook before I remembered reading it in my Bible, and I'm like, that actually sounds kind of psychotic. But what that means is that God knows when you're suffering, and He will take care of you through it. He all the tears you cry by yourself don't go to waste. God sees them. And God knows that you're suffering, and He suffers with you. None of those tears that you cry in silence go to waste. You're never alone and never forgotten. And I just want you guys to remember that. God loves you. That's about it for today. Just want to give you a little heads up for next week. I will not be doing a catch-up, but I will be doing something very special. If you are a Studio C fan, you're probably going to like this. If not, you're going to be really confused. But that's all I can say, so I hope to see you back next week. Bye!